Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing? How is your day today? Today is Monday and it's February and it was warm and it's supposed to be really warm tomorrow. Like, I'm seriously considering taking the motorcycle out even though the tire isn't the greatest. So something awesome has been happening for me lately, and that is I've been working on a game, and I kind of have hinted at it a little bit here on the show, a little bit on social media, that maybe something is in the works. And let me tell you, it feels great. If you know me through just the YouTube thing, then maybe you don't know that I do, I used to do a lot of game design. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, chances are you found me because of game design. And I have talked at great length over the years about my philosophies on game design, my philosophies on approaching game design and creativity and all that stuff. And, you know, I picked up a significant following based on my knowledge of game design and game theory and all that stuff. I used to have a very active blog where I blogged about all my designs and all the thought processes that went into making games. I even did a video series where I designed a game here live on YouTube, and I gave that game away. But it's been a few years. It's been almost 2 full years since the last time I really designed anything. I've had ideas. I shouldn't say it's been 2 years since I've designed anything. It's been 2 years since I've designed anything new. I have tried a couple of times over the past few years to retweak some old designs and never did get those to work. This is the first thing that I've really tackled new in 2 years. And prior to this game, the thing that I would always tell people is rapid prototype. If you have a game design idea, you want to put it in a physical form as quickly as possible. And sometimes, if you go back and watch the series that I did here on YouTube, it might even start with just blank cards. I have hundreds of just blank cards laying around. And sometimes I'll just sit with blank cards and I'll shuffle them and I'll put them out and say, okay, this is a whatever, and what would happen if it went here instead, or maybe I'm going to play it this way, or, you know, and just kind of work through my head and how I want the flow of the cards or tiles or resources, whatever that might be, to work in the game universe, in the big scheme of things. And then once I figure out the main flow, then I'll start working on actual stuff. Okay, and that often is the way that I'll work on designing very simple little games, which is kind of my thing. I'm not really going to design a huge, grandiose game, because my game design theory, and this is true for physical games as well as video games, is there is a vast amount of superiority in simplicity. Making something complex for the sake of making something complex does not make it better. I always try to reduce. And so oftentimes that means I start with the mechanics first, and that's a question that like every new game designer says. You know, do you start with the mechanics or the theme? And it's really a difficult thing to answer because it's very much subjective to the particular game. But they're so married, or they should be married. You should be able to put your game out, briefly explain what you're doing in the story of the game, and have the actions that take place in that game make sense within that story. They should mirror each other. The more that the actions simulate the story, the easier it is to understand interactions between things, how you're supposed to play things, that sort of stuff. That being said, all this talk about rapid prototyping and working your way through the first couple iterations of the game, this game has been sitting in my head literally for about 4 months now, or 5 months. It's just been stewing. And every now and then I'll open up Google Notes, or I'll open up a physical notebook. I still work very heavily on physical notebooks, and sketch an idea, or I'll be thinking about, how would this interact with that, or whatever. And let me tell you, this game is, the original inspiration was, I wanted to make a Mars-themed game that was simple. And I was going to call it Simply Mars, right? And then maybe I could have a Simply series based on this system of play. That was the original concept. I veered vastly from that. And now it's more of a generic planet-settling, spacey themed game where you're building a research and development settlement as a corporation on some moon or asteroid or planet, or it doesn't have to be Mars anymore. It could be anything. And because of that, because I've freed myself up from that whole, we're going to go terraform Mars, or we're going to go explore, the mines of Mars and things like that, I have given myself the freedom to allow the story to drive a lot of the cards. So, for instance, I have things on here like an uplink, right? Because if we go to Mars, it's going to be understood that we're going to have direct communications. But if we go to a distant planet, who's going to say that we're going to be able to have communications? So having the communications uplink is something that you'll have to actually build once you get there. We're not sure how it's going to work until you get there. Having a lab that can be used by everyone that isn't specific to a certain task, supply drops and crew quarters and all this sort of stuff, I get to kind of mess with that a little bit within the window of this game. And I'm having a blast at it. Man, I really just wanted to tell you this story because I'm really excited at the fact that I'm actually working on something. Because ever since this medication, this antidepressant that I've been on for the last 3 years now has been in my system, it has even killed me to some point. I would say I'm still probably more depressed than even, but I was diagnosed as chronic depressive disorder or something like that, or major depressive disorder, which is like what it sounds like, major depression, right? But in reality, I'm probably bipolar. My sister's bipolar. And so I would have these swings. I would have this intense high mania period. And mania, if you've never experienced it, some people say it's dangerous. It can be dangerous because it robs you of inhibitions. You feel so good that you're just going to do whatever and it doesn't matter the consequences. And that's very much how it feels. But I don't want to sound like it's an excuse, right? Like it's not like you're drinking. Just for me, it was an insanely intense period of energy and focus, and I would always have that when I would work on a game. Just this drive to just get it done and push it, and so I would design game after game after game after game, and people would be like, "Oh my God, do you ever stop?" Like, no. And those periods for me would sometimes last years, like just intense high drive, and then so this medication has taken that completely from me. I have very little. I still have passion for the idea of game design, but it's when I sit here and I look at this and I play with this, and I'm trying to familiarize myself with how the game works so that I can build a better game. That intense, like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, we're going to go down that hole, just doesn't exist for me anymore. And that's okay. It's perfectly fine. But I still have to get it done, right? Like I've literally lost sleep over this game. I've had dreams about it. I've laid asleep at night thinking about different ways I can make things interact, and it has to get out there. And my hope is maybe this week, maybe next week, I can actually present it to some of my game night friends, not as a let's play this game, but like let's sit down and let me show you how this thing works, and we can all discuss how various things interact. And then in a few weeks or a month or however long it takes me to dig through this once again, we could actually try to play something. But I think what I really am excited about is just the fact that it's actually happening. I'm actually doing it. I'm having fun doing it. I'm having fun talking about it, even just now to a camera. And I really want to see it through. So I don't know if I have a moral to the story. I don't know if I have anything other than to say, hey, Chevee's working on designing a game right now, and that's pretty cool because he hasn't done that in a really long time. So yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for seeing it. I might do some videos on the design of this game. If I do that, I'm going to do them separate from this series, so it would be like a weekend upload. Please let me know in the comments below if that's something that you're interested in seeing, and I'll shoot it, because ultimately I like doing whatever it is you guys like watching. So thank you for liking and commenting and subscribing and being here and sharing my content, because you people are awesome. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact, wikipedia.org. How many countries does the Nile River flow through? The Nile is an international river, as its water resources are shared by 11 countries, namely Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, I don't know that one, Congo Kinshasa, don't know that one either, Kenya, Ethiopia, Eritrea, South Sudan, Sudan, and Egypt.